Hi kids, I'm Josiah Milky,
And I'm Jordan Milky.
and today we are talking about Disney's 23rd animated feature film classic, The Rescuers. Rescuers was actually planned, probably about 15 years before it was actually finished. They actually started planning Rescuers in the early 1960s, and the idea was that a famous poet was going to get kidnapped and have to be rescued. But eventually it took too many political turns, and Walt Disney was dissatisfied with that idea and shelved it. Years later, after his death, in the 1970s, they started reviving the idea, based off the books by Marguerite Sharp. And the original idea was they were going to take the latest story at the time of Miss Bianca in the Antarctic. And the story was about a polar bear that was going to be voiced by Louis Prima, the voice of King Louie in The Jungle Book. And he was going to get kidnapped and forced to perform for people at shows. And so the mice had to rescue him. His name was Louie the Bear, named for Louis Prima, just like King Louie. And he was going to sing a bunch of songs written by Floyd Huddleston, the guy that wrote Everybody Wants to Be a Cat for the Aristocats and Love for Robin Hood. Ultimately, the idea was scrapped after Louis Prima started suffering from memory loss, and so that idea was scrapped as well. And Rescuers was reshaped into the film it is today. Based off the books by Marguerite Sharp, Rescuers is Disney's 23rd animated feature film, first released in June of 1977, a mere 3 months after their last animated feature, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Talk about a short time span. Rescuers was a box office success and got really good reviews. In fact, some say it was the best box office hit they had in feature animation since The Jungle Book, and I checked the box office receipts online the other day, and I think they're right. Rescuers had made more money than any animated Disney feature film since The Jungle Book, except for Jungle Book itself, but you know. So good reviews, good box office reception, but every time I read a review on this movie, everybody who talks about it seems to really dislike it for how dark it is. Having rewatched a couple parts of the movie myself, I can see where they're coming from, but I can also see the goodness that this movie has to offer. Jordan, you've watched this movie for the last few years. How would you describe it?
Well, Bernard and Bianca are really strong protagonists. I really like the character of Penny. She's just this sweet little girl. And I love her song, Someone's Waiting for You, by Shelby Flint.
And one other good thing about Penny is she's not just someone that needs to be rescued at the end. She actually has a backstory that helps us relate to her.
Oh, although one thing I dislike is that Madame Medusa seems too much of a Cruella de Vil ripoff.
Yeah, I'll talk about that while we're talking about this. But anyway, here's the story of The Rescuers. Unlike most animated Disney feature films that start right with the opening credits, this one actually has a prologue scene with Penny, a little orphan girl trapped on a riverboat in the middle of a bayou, dropping a bottle with a message inside, and it floats across the sea. Then we get the opening credits with the song that goes with the bottle's journey, where it eventually, after the opening credits are over, winds up at the Rescue Aid Society headquarters in New York City. The Rescue Aid Society is an all-mice group who are basically the mice version of the United Nations. They have different delegates from all over the world, and they help people and animals in need. The message is from Penny, the little orphan girl who needs help, and they end up sending probably the 2 least likely candidates to lead a mission, the janitor Bernard, voiced by funny man Bob Newhart, and the Hungarian representative, Miss Bianca, voiced by Eva Gabor, off to save Penny. Actually, Eva Gabor works really well as the voice of Bianca because she's Hungarian. Previously, she attempted a French accent when she voiced Duchess the Cat in the Aristocats, and it wasn't very good. So they go to Morningside Orphanage, where Penny used to live, and meet up with Rufus the Cat, who tells them Penny's backstory, where she's upset that nobody will adopt her. But Rufus assures her she's something special. But then, shortly after they had their talk, Penny went missing. But Rufus did hear tell of a woman named Madame Medusa, who ran a pawn shop a few blocks down the road. Bernard and Bianca go there next. Now, as Jordan said earlier, Madame Medusa, originally the villain was going to be Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians, but unfortunately the Disney studio wasn't interested in doing sequels at the time, and so they had to come up with a whole new character. But she does borrow similarities to Cruella de Vil. They both get really mad and shout when they don't get what they want, and they're reckless drivers. Not to mention they have bumbling henchmen.
Yeah, I think Medusa's car is the same as Cruella's.
Yeah, I believe so. Although her design, along with Cruella de Vil, she's also based off an actual villain from the Marguerite Sharp books, and her design was based on that of animator Milt Kahl's ex-wife. Apparently Kahl didn't like his wife very much.
Oh.
This was actually Milt Kahl's last animated Disney feature, and he wanted his last character to look her best. So he practically did all of the Medusa animation herself, and I gotta say, he did a really good job. Ultimately, Bernard and Bianca end up flying to Devil's Bayou on an albatross named Orville, voiced by Jim Jordan. And, I guess you could say Orville's the comic relief of the picture, along with Evinrude the Dragonfly, who comes up later. Once they get to the bayou, they meet up with some of the swamp folks, and Evinrude the Dragonfly, who provides a leaf boat that Bernard and Bianca can use to get to the riverboat where Medusa's holding Penny captive. So why did Medusa kidnap Penny in the first place?
Can I say it?
Sure, go ahead.
Well, Medusa's, is after her treasure, but the one treasure she wants the most is the Devil's Eye Diamond. The biggest diamond in the world.
Right, she loves diamonds, which explains why, she has so many in her pawn shop, but it's the big one, the Devil's Eye, which is hidden deep in a pirate's cave. That's the treasure she wants. And Penny, for the sake of quoting future Disney stuff, is, as Jafar would call Aladdin, the diamond in the rough. Small enough to enter the cave and retrieve the jewel. So, from there, the film basically follows Bernard and Bianca as they try to help Penny get the jewel from Madame Medusa and then get her out of there and back to the orphanage, where hopefully someone will come along and adopt her. So let's start with the good stuff of Rescuers. First off, great voice talent once more. Bob Newhart. I can't think of anybody else than Bob Newhart to voice Bernard. Eva Gabor, great job as Bianca. Geraldine Page is the voice of Madame Medusa, and she's pretty good. Interestingly enough, she passed away 10 years after this film's release, but then 10 years after that, her husband, Rip Torn, later did the voice of Zeus in Disney's Hercules.
Oh.
Isn't that interesting?
Was it Penny? Is Michelle Stacy.
Who hasn't been in anything else, I don't think, that we've seen, but she's pretty good.
Yeah, very cute actress.
Jim Jordan, Orville, great. They actually got sound effects artist Jimmy McDonald out of retirement to provide the sound effects for Evinrude. Evinrude, they say it both ways. Of course, Madame Medusa doesn't work alone because she's got her henchman, Mr. Snoops. But the difference with Cruella de Vil and Madame Medusa is Cruella's barely on screen during the action parts, and she leaves her bumbling henchmen, Horace and Jasper, to do the dirty work, whereas Medusa is practically there all the time to keep Penny in check. She just has Snoops there to help her out when she's not there. An interesting story about Snoops, he's voiced by a guy named Joe Flynn. This was actually Flynn's final film role. He passed away a good 3 years before the film's release.
Oh.
Yeah, this won't be the last time that actors die before a film gets released. And then, of course, Medusa's also got her crocodile henchmen, Nero and Brutus.
And they're pretty good animal sidekicks.
If anything, Nero and Brutus are probably more scarier than Medusa, because everybody fears crocodiles. We know crocodiles have a good side, but that's another story for another day.
Right.
So, there's the characters. The storyline is actually pretty good, too. And one thing that the Rescuers did was it gave new and upcoming people at Disney a chance to show their stuff on the animation side. This was actually the last animated Disney film that not only Milt Kahl worked on, it also was the last one to have Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston as directing animators. They also started training up-and-coming animators for later Disney films. Some of them even get credit in the film. This one had animation done by the likes of Disney animator Glenn Keane, Ron Clements, one of the directors of films like Aladdin and The Little Mermaid, and Andy Gaskell, art director of The Lion King. And all three of them, along with some other animators, went on to play key roles in the Disney Renaissance era.
Oh.
So that's all good stuff. Now for the bad stuff, some of the animation doesn't look that great. I think they were still using the Xerox technology they had on 101 Dalmatians. But the animation in this one, just like the animation in Aristocats and Robin Hood, the animation in this movie doesn't fire on all cylinders like it did on 101 Dalmatians and The Jungle Book. And another problem that hurts this movie is, for the first time since Bambi, which was more than 30 years before this, a Disney animated feature film doesn't have the songs sung by the characters for the most part. Instead, they're played over the action to carry the story forward. And really the only notable song in this movie is Someone's Waiting for You, which is the song that plays during Penny's lull point in the film.
Yeah, that one's really cute.
And it's probably the only notable one just because it got nominated for the Oscars. Like Jungle Book and Robin Hood, Rescuers only received an Oscar nomination for Best Original Song, and Someone's Waiting for You is it. I admit the singer of the songs is pretty good, Shelby Flint, and it's also worth noting that one of the songwriters, Rescuers had 3 songwriters, 2 of which were the big songwriters for this. They were both girls, Carol Connors and Ayn Robbins, both of whom I have never heard of before this. But helping them write Someone's Waiting for You was Sammy Fain, who also wrote You Can Fly from Peter Pan.
Okay.
So the story and the characters are pretty good. There's one good song with Someone's Waiting for You, but otherwise, it's probably too scary for little kids, and the animation isn't completely 100% fantastic. So maybe give Rescuers a one-time viewing every couple years or so. Otherwise, forget it. Rescuers' latest home video release was its 35th anniversary edition Blu-ray and DVD release in the summer of 2012 in a 2-movie collection with its sequel, The Rescuers Down Under. Bonus features that are carried over from previous DVD releases include a sing-along of Someone's Waiting for You. The sing-along version is plucked from a Disney sing-along tape.
Oh, the Little Mermaid one.
Right. Waterbirds, an episode of the live-action True Life Adventures series that Disney did in the 50s. This one actually won an Oscar for Best Live-Action Short. And the 1936 animated Silly Symphony short, Three Blind Mouseketeers. Basically the Three Musketeers with mice as the heroes and a cat as the villain. And the Blu-ray comes with a deleted song from the original Louie the Bear version of The Rescuers. If I'm being perfectly honest, I would have actually wanted to see the original Louie the Bear version. Because that Louis Prima, after his work on Jungle Book, I would have wanted to see what he did with his new bear character. Rescuers Down Under bonus features I'll get to when we get to that film, which leads me to how Rescuers continued. It had a 1990 sequel, The Rescuers Down Under. First animated Disney feature sequel in the canon, that follows up a film previously released in the canon, but we'll get to that later.
Right.
In the meantime, go ahead and give Rescuers a shot if you haven't seen it yet. Just be forewarned, little kids might be freaked out by Medusa and the crocodiles. Again, story and characters are good. One good song with Someone's Waiting for You. Otherwise, bottom line, give it a one-time viewing every couple of years or so. It's not the best animated Disney feature film, but it's definitely not the worst either. Well, we're out of time for today. Remember, when you wish upon a star, your dreams come true.
Goodbye!
See you soon!